Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 239, The Last Starfighter, the classic 1984 film back from our youth, as we continue to celebrate the summer of 1984 on the show. With me tonight to discuss this classic from our past and a long, long time ago is my friend, my co-host, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Hi, Roy.
Hey, Ross.
I don't know if you know how to use that 30-second countdown.
Well, Ross, I wanted to wait to watch the numbers go up. Actually, at one point, it was actually headed for like 10,000 viewers. And I just figured, you know what? I wanted to try to creep that in there. And, every 30 seconds really makes the count and makes the difference. So anyway.
You should just put up the Yule log. At the beginning,
as a joke, I was just going to let it go for about an hour and a half, and then then we'll just say, you know what, we're gonna run the shout outs and say that was the show. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. And I'm the only one sitting here. Yeah, you can do that. Do it when we do Orca.
And hey, I want to welcome everybody. First, I want to say hi to Leslie. Hey, Leslie. No, I'm just joking. Oh shoot! So it's always fun to laugh on a Friday night, and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, no, I just want to say hi to everybody. Hey, Matt is joining us on YouTube tonight. Welcome, Matt. And this is Matt's first and only free pass. And he says, "Doesn't Roy know that a 3-minute glitch could cause the destruction of the Ryland Empire?" You're cut off, Matt. Welcome, Matt. Matt's joining us from Philadelphia. Christian is joining us from Canada. Welcome, Christian. And also Randy Lee is out there. Randy's saying he's brought his quarters and he's joining us from Wisconsin. Lou is joining us. Hey, Lou. Hey, everyone. And Lou's joining us from the lovely state of Rhode Island. Jeff Rubel is also in the house. Yes, just in time to getting home from the store. Hey, guys. Hey, Jeff.
He timed it to be 20 minutes after the hour.
Hey, we aim to be punctual. Brennan is also out there joining us from Massachusetts. Need a 100-second count. Yeah, I know we really do, Brennan. I'm working on it. I think I'm going to try to pitch the idea to StreamYard and see what they say.
Yeah.
Shari is out there. She said, "Hey guys, I love the laughter." Thank you, Shari. Downstairs, she was asking if there's any shower scenes in this movie. Randy's saying, "Wait, welcome, Matt." And James Michaelis is out there, and he's joining us from Australia. Welcome, James. Good to see you out there. So we are well represented tonight, and it's going to be a fun night talking about this classic. And this movie actually debuted, Ross, on July 18th, 1984. Crazy. Just 2 days before my birthday, 2 weeks after your birthday. And we would have been 18. Ouch.
Really? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's for our 18th birthday. Randy said The Last Starfighter taught us an important lesson. If your arcade skills are good enough, you might just get recruited to save the galaxy. Just don't expect to get any extra lives. Yeah.
Right.
Well said. And Martin is joining us from New York. Welcome, Martin. Good to see you out there. Good to see everybody there. Lou said 4 days before my birthday, if anyone cares. That's right. He was born on July 22nd.
Bunch of cancers.
Yeah, really. So anyway, good times in regards to this. It was fun to watch this movie again. I did not see this film in the theater. How about you, Ross? I'm sure you did.
I did not, actually. I saw it for the first time this week. It was one of those, like I said on my Facebook page, after Star Wars, they were cranking out these things like sausage links. And I was there in the theater like this. And by the time Last Starfighter came out, I was pretty full. I said, this one looks kind of dumb. But I think they didn't know how to market it, or I just didn't give it a chance.
I think it was actually the marketing, because honestly, I didn't see this in the theater either. I had no interest in seeing it, and it saddens me because it's a fun movie and it has some good, really special moments in there, and I kind of got choked up a couple of times watching this film.
Yeah, I remember reading the reviews when it came out, and the reviews were good. They were kind, and they were raving about Robert Preston.
Yeah.
So I knew, okay, so Gene and Roger liked it, that kind of thing. But I just never, I just couldn't get my head around going to see the movie, so I never did. I had a block against this one, and also Battle Beyond the Stars. I saw bits of it on cable, but I've never seen it.
Now, Battle Beyond the Stars, is that the movie that was with Richard Thomas?
Yes, it was a Roger Corman movie, but it was an early one for James Cameron did the special effects. James Horner did the music, and George Papard was in it. I think a bunch of what's his name? From Magnificent Seven, Man from Uncle.
Robert Vaughn.
Robert Vaughn was in it. Yeah, so it was kind of a remake of the Magnificent Seven in space, gotcha. But I never saw it. So one of these days we'll do it, and I'll watch it, and I'll probably like it. But back then, it's just like, oh, come on, yeah. On the other hand, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's a movie that Lou that's out there. Hey, again, Lou always busts my chops about, and I think I sat through maybe 7 minutes of the film, and every now and then, it's like every couple of years, the movie will come up, we'll laugh about it, and then we'll shake our heads, and then we won't talk about it. And I think if I remember correctly, isn't Christopher Lee in that film? And I can't think of the name of it. I think it was a late 70s film, and it's really, really bad.
Not Invasion of the Invasions from Mars or whatever it was.
It's
the one I'm always complaining about, where he causes people to commit suicide on the planet. I saw that one in the theater. Yeah. Or Starship Invaders.
That's it. Starship Invasion.
Oh, Starship Invasions. And Robert Vaughn's in that one, too. It's a terrible movie.
Yes.
Terrible movie. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Lou.
Yeah. Thanks too, Jeff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I hated that movie. Yeah. I don't know. That was one of them where it was very shortly after Star Wars. It was within months or maybe within a year.
Well, and to your point, and to the point that you were just making earlier when you were saying that you were really trying to take in all these films.
Yeah.
That was one of the concerns with this film as well, that, again, similarities to Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars was that lightning in the bottle. I mean, it really worked. Everything came together, and it came together. It didn't happen all at once. I mean, Star Wars in its making and we've talked about Star Wars numerous amounts of times on the show, but it's just that if it wasn't for the re-editing and everything that took place after that, really, it was just like, what do we have here? And then it became what it is. And, we've been talking about it for almost 50 years. With that said, there have been all these movies and television shows that have tried to kind of emulate that. Even watching this film, even with the credits a little bit, I was feeling that a little bit. Also, Superman, I was feeling the
absolutely
with that. It's like,
oh, absolutely, yeah. It was feeding all of its energy off of earlier things that we had embraced in the wake of Star Wars. But Star Wars itself had so much verve, so much energy from George Lucas he went to film school. He went to USC, and he was a big fan of Kurosawa movies. And both he and Spielberg, I know Spielberg wasn't involved with Star Wars, but the directors of that generation, they grew up on Westerns, they grew up on pirate movies, and they took all this stuff and he just, synthesized it into Star Wars. And we didn't know that as kids, but he just souped this up, World War II, aerial footage, and he made something new and high tech and fun. And the world went crazy for it. But what happens then when you have a hit like that, nobody goes back and says, hey, why don't we just do, what Lucas did? They look at Star Wars and they say, well, let's just do this. Let's just do this. And I was just complaining about this a week or two ago when we were doing the show about how, that generation of directors, they actually had these they're secondhand experiences, I guess, because the firsthand experiences, they're all people like Howard Hawks and Frank Capra and William Wyler, all these guys who actually, experienced life and World War II and then the Great Depression and everything. And then you have the guys that grew up on the movies these guys made, which were Lucas and Spielberg and John Carpenter and John Milius and Francis Ford Coppola. And they have the strong vision based on what those guys had done. And now, after that, you have all the people that are of the cell phone generation that are just emulating, just grabbing stuff out of the pop culture of the well, maybe even beyond that, like videos and video games now. It's like none of it has any. It's so diluted now. We're no longer of the era of Martin Scorsese and Spielberg, but anyway. So I don't know what my point was with that. I got so far away from what we were talking about. Oh yeah. You're saying it was a Star Wars ripoff, and yeah, basically. But you know what though? It draws off of Star Wars. It draws off of Close Encounters, Tron.
Tron was another big one. That was what 82.
Well, a video game, with the computer. And the fact that they both had the computer. They were both early examples of computer effects.
Right. This film is way before CGI, but this is tapping into what the resources would have been had CG. This is like pre-CGI. Essentially, it was getting away from practical effects. Yeah. It was almost like it was like watching a video game. Essentially, right,
and I know from reading some of the things with the makers of this that they weren't entirely happy with the effects. Like they wanted to do more with it, but they didn't have the budget or the time to really do what they wanted to do with it. But watching it now from my perspective, had I not read that, I would have thought they did it on purpose because it ties in so well with him, with the video game recruitment of Alex, the protagonist of the movie.
Right.
It would make sense that he would go, into this video game dimension, since that's what he's experiencing at the beginning. Just like with Tron, when Jeff Bridges' character gets sucked into the computer world. And it's like, hey, what do you know? It's just like working with the computer. Run around on your little motorcycles.
It's on the other side.
On the other side. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. So anyway, we're talking about like things that drew off of. There was a little bit of E.T. in there. The room that Alex lives in. I mean, come on. He had the whole solar system. He had the lamp. He had there was the return scene when he came back, which had nothing to do with ET, but it had that vibe.
Right, the vibe is the word, absolutely. Especially when the planets are kind of like spinning around and everything.
Yeah, that also.
Feel. Yeah. The way the light was coming through the shades, it was emulating what took place in ET.
ET, right. And you had mentioned, I think you mentioned it during the show, or right before the show. Oh no, you did, with Superman, with the beginning credits.
The credits.
It's there was like a little bit that they were grabbing from all of that stuff just to like give us that little nostalgia charge. So that does not bode well. You know what I mean? At the beginning, and the whole trailer park thing. It's like, what kind of fantasy trailer park is this? It's so Spielbergian or something out of like a Joe.
Well, and the whole thing is, in regards to the trailer park, they were trying to go away from the urban type of atmosphere as far as like a small community and everything, just because suburban rather, excuse me, in regards to like E.T. and then other films, even like with C3K or Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah. So they figured, let's go in this different direction. But it's what do they say? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, because essentially what they were doing is they were pretty much copying that, but they were just kind of giving it a little bit of a twist, just so that it's like, hey, this seems familiar, but no, it's not the same.
But it was like the most middle class trailer park, you know what I mean? It's just like, exactly. I guess they had problems and this and that, but it was like nothing. It's like, oh yeah, I've got to go fix so and so's.
Well, he was like the handyman, only he was the handy boy, is what he was.
But in the meantime, he's emulated by his community. The kids that are there, they're all like in rednecks and pickup trucks and stuff, but they can all make references to Romeo and Juliet and Venus. And it's like, okay, what kind of fantasy world is this? He lives in a trailer park with well-read,
Well, it was kind of amusing because jumping ahead, I mean, they're almost like at make-out point, and the beta is trying to figure out what to say to her and to Catherine Mary Stewart's character, and to Maggie, and he doesn't know what to say, so he's listening to what's going on next, from afar, and the one guy is trying to be poetic to your point, and he's saying, you're my Venus, And then the next thing he's saying, talk dirty to me. And then, and then it's like, it just like shifts. And then he makes the mistake of repeating that, I'm glad you forgave me for being with all those other, girls. And then she slaps him. And it was just like, it had that mixture going on there.
Yeah, this was a subplot. I mean, you had the main plot where Alex, I'll let Roy tell plots, but so he gets recruited through the video game to go, participate in this galactic conflict because he's such an expert at the game that he, they glean that he'd be a perfect star pilot or whatever.
Yeah, and if you think about it though, and I don't mean to cut you off, it's kind of like what Randy was saying. It really gave you a whole new type of spin on that, because think about it, we've all thrown a lot of quarters into those video machines and those arcades back in the day. And I really don't feel like arcades are what they used to be. I mean, you go through through an arcade, today, and it's just like so different. And especially if you go down to the shore, I mean, going down there, I mean, we were down there and we were doing that and we were like walking through and everything. And it's just that maybe there's like 3 or 4 retro games back from the 80s, if you're lucky. And to that point, people, I mean, as kids, we would do that. It's like you want to get that high score on there. You're really trying to, whether it be, what was it, Star Invasion or Space Invaders, rather. Space Invaders. What was it? Galaxia was another one.
Asteroids. Berserk was one of my favorites.
Spy Hunter, if you remember Spy Hunter. That was
Spy Hunter, of course, yeah. But what I was saying about, so I mean, how coddled were we? You know what I mean? First of all, they make this fantasy for us that these video games are consequential, and all of our geeking out and wasting our time getting the high score in these video games has some kind of consequence. But they put us in a movie theater, and this is our hero's journey. You know what I mean? It's like no effort exerted at all. We just live it vicariously. It's like, okay, so the old hero's journey that Joseph Campbell would always talk about the hero from unlikely, he's always born in a backwater, and he finds out that there's, he has the calling to the great, the quest or whatever. And maybe it turns out that he's of royal lineage or something, but he always gets taken under the wing of a mentor. And he has these great skills that he develops, and he wins the princess, and he destroys the Death Star, and that sort of thing. You didn't say Death Star, but I mean, that's the kind of journey. But for us, it's like, nah, I'm not going to do that stuff. I'm going to go sit and watch it in the air-conditioned theater. I'm just going to feel the feelings. I'm going to have the cute girl, and I'm going to have fighting the galactic warfare, and I'll play my video games, and that'll be me becoming realizing myself as the great hero or what have you.
You're self-envisioned.
Yeah, exactly. Realization or yeah.
I wanted to say hi to Don real quick. Don, welcome. Don is joining us from Delaware. Then Don, don't worry, we were late tonight too. We started at 7:15, but good to see you out there as well. I just want to catch up on a couple other people. I see Dennis Chevalier is out there joining us from Canada. Welcome, Dennis. One comment that Jeff said is the same thing happened at the beginning of Stargate Universe video games. Slacker gets recruited, kidnapped by Stargate Command. So there you go. It's similar.
So it's a lot easier than just getting off your butt and doing something to change the universe. Yeah, I got high score on Last Starfighter. But yes. Oh, so get all this is a big loop. Getting back to what you're saying about the beta. Okay, so the primary plot is the concept is what I said about being recruited from being an excellent video game player. The subplot is once he goes, he's replaced by a doppelganger, a clone that's in his likeness, but doesn't have all of his, he's not wholly developed. And therefore there are all kinds of comic misadventures as he tries to fit in and be like Alex. But yeah, so he gets in these stupid romantic situations where he flubs it, and that could have gone very wrong, by the way, for Alex.
It really could have been. He may not have had a girlfriend. Yeah. One thing that was interesting too is they actually did show this film to a test audience, and I guess what had happened was they really didn't have as much footage as they had finalized with in regards to the doppelganger. So what they did was they went back and they actually added that footage to the movie, and I guess it was sometime after production had stopped. And what had happened was, I guess he, what whatchamacallit, Lance Guest. I guess he had, shaved his head or whatever. He had really like short haircut, so they did that, and they put a wig on him, and then they said he really got really sick, so they had to really just like try to make it look like that he was not as hurting as he was when they went back to film these extra scenes, but they really wanted to try to appeal to the test audience because I guess it was very well received in regards to the comic relief, the subplot that you were indicating about. So that was something they went ahead and did.
And you know what? I'm glad they did, because it was a nice counterbalance. Not that the adventure story is necessarily, totally straightforward and without tongue in cheek. I mean, there's, it is a Star Wars type adventure, but there's plenty of winking and tongue in cheek stuff going on during that. And it was kind of a nice counterbalance to have the kind of, it's not quite Shakespearean comedy, but the goofy comic elements with the what they call them, the beta, the doppelganger that they put there to fool everybody into, oh yeah, Alex didn't go anywhere. But it's good because the actor, what's his name, Alex or Lance Guest.
Lance Guest, yeah.
Yeah, it happens a lot in these movies that the lead comes off as being the blandest guy in the cast because you have so many colorful supporting characters always, But throwing the beta into the mix actually gave him something to do that was fun.
Right.
So it looked like he was having fun doing those scenes, even if he was not feeling well.
He was expanding his acting chops, so to speak.
Yeah.
Don said, I somehow thought that the beta was cooler than the original Alex.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, the whole scene where he takes off his head and then he's messing, tinkering with it and sticking the screwdriver in his ear.
He's messing, and then his younger brother wakes up and he sees it and he says, go back to sleep. You're having a really bad dream.
So that was fun. Yeah.
Don said, yeah, when I was a kid, my favorite characters were Alex and Maggie. Now, for some reason, it was Otis and Centauri. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The veteran actors really lifted it to the next level, because the beginning, it's like, okay, so this is like your knockoff, like I said, the Spielbergian Joe Dante setup before anything grotesque happens in Joe Dante. But you know how it is. He gives you the nostalgic flashback to the idealized community before all hell breaks loose, before the gremlins get loose. And it was kind of like that at the beginning. It's like, okay, so this is what this movie's going to be. But then Robert Preston shows up like 15 minutes into the movie or something like that and just takes it to a whole other level.
He really does.
And
the last movie that he actually did too, Russ, theatrically. Yeah. I mean, he did a couple other things that were as far as television series, or not television series, but on television. But as far as being in the movies, this was it. Yeah,
he died pretty young. He was 68. He died of lung cancer, which, and of course his big role was, what's his name? Harold Hill, the Music Man.
Music Man, yeah.
Yeah, so he was very well known for that. Did a lot of stage. Nominated for 3 Tonys. I think he won twice. Music Man, of course. I Do. He was nominated for Mac and Mabel. He played Mac Sennett in that musical. But he's in a lot of movies way before that. Back in 1939, just a couple of weeks ago, I think I brought it up. Beau Geste with Gary Cooper and Ray Milland. They were the 3 brothers. They joined the Foreign Legion, and now I can't remember. Brian Dunleavy is the harsh sergeant that they all wound up hating in real life, and Ray Milland actually stabbed him in real life, missed the vest and got him. But so he was in Beau Geste, and he was in How the West Was Won in the 50s. So he did a lot of all kinds of movies, but he became kind of a song and dance man.
Right.
And he's so good in this, and he's so good. When you think that The Music Man was made decades earlier, and he still has that same kind of magnetism.
Yeah, the persona comes through.
Yeah, and they kind of modeled the part supposedly on that character. So anyway, it was fun to see him. And I was surprised that he kind of drops out of the movie for a little while. But that fits the Star Wars template, though. You bring somebody like Alec Guinness in, and he's in for a little while, and then he's gone. And
And then he comes back.
Exactly. But then they had the ace in the hole, with Dan O'Hurley.
Yes.
Dan O'Hurley, who played Gig, the humanoid lizard, who was kind of his navigator and mentor and sidekick. You know, a little bit of a Chewbacca thing going.
His inspiration to keep going.
Yeah, and he's another actor that he's not as famous as Robert Preston, but if you look at his credits, you realize that you've seen him a million times. But his credits also go back to the 40s, at least.
Well, and going back to your comment earlier, Lance Guest, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was probably only 24 years old when he did this film. And you figure you're up there with some heavy hitters, you know what I mean? And you're really surrounded. He pretty much held his own. I think he did a good job with everything.
All told.
I think he pulled it off. It can't be easy, and it can be somewhat intimidating.
Yeah.
Especially if you're aware of who they are, you know what I mean? And their background and what they've done. And it's not like these were veteran performers. And
right.
As you said, that they did a lot of different material and won a lot of different awards and were definitely acknowledged. So being in that type of situation,
yeah.
And Lance Guest and also Catherine Mary Stewart, her part was more minimal in this film, but both of them did a really good job with what they had. Catherine Mary Stewart, I think I was telling you, she was actually up in East Stroudsburg probably it was before COVID. I'm going to say it was probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I was up there with Vince and also Rob. And we got to see The Night of the Comet, which she also did, which also came out in 1984. But then what she did was she did a discussion right before the film. And then she talked and took questions after. Super nice, super personable. And just, it was really cool to have the opportunity to meet her and to hear what she had to say about it, which was kind of cool.
I still have not seen Night of the Comet, but I do remember when it came out, and that too got some acclaim. Right? Yeah, O'Hurley did turn up in the RoboCop movies then, but he was Orson Welles' Macbeth. He was Macduff to Welles' Macbeth. He was in Failsafe, which was kind of like it was Dr. Strangelove without the laughs.
Right.
But he was the lead in that. He was in Robinson Crusoe. Louise Buñuel's Robinson Crusoe is nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor. In that, he was an odd man out. Right.
From Welles' Macbeth.
I think it might have been his first movie with James Mason. But yeah, so he's right. You just but more recently, what we would have recognized him from, because just a few years before, he was in Halloween 3. He played that sinister Irish warlock that had that mad plan to murder all the children with his mass-produced corporation that had his Halloween masks.
You know how you despise some movies and you say you don't even want to talk about them, you don't want to hear them, you don't even want to. I despise Halloween 3.
I did too.
To me, it is. I was so looking forward to it after the first two, thinking, okay, this is going to be interesting, and I hadn't read anything up on it. And I remember I saw it at the Budco. Oh, it was awful. And anytime that is on, I just turn the channel. I have no desire to see that movie whatsoever. That Shamrock song goes right through my mind.
The Silver Shamrock jingle.
I can't say enough bad things about that film.
Yeah, I really hated it myself. It was just, it was just repulsive on its own, and it really was. It just really, I don't know, really ticked off.
Why even make a movie? It's bad enough some of the movies they do make, but that movie was just
wretched. Well, you gotta at least give them some credit that they wanted to do something different. It was just terrible.
Yeah, but I agree, Brennan. The idea of to doing that to children in the masses was very distasteful. It was just awful, and some of the scenes and everything that took place with that. The interesting thing, though, is going on a different level with talking about Halloween. Lance Guest was in Halloween 2. And then also, if nothing else, the director of this movie, he was in Friday. Well, there was also, you just talked about Dan Hurley, but also was Jason in the Friday the 13th
No,
which is
Michael Myers.
he was Michael Myers.
In
Yeah.
the Halloween movies.
Or
Yeah,
excuse me, yeah, Michael Myers, the Halloween rather.
yeah. It's easy to confuse the two. but yeah. If you start,
Matt, where you've got 8 more days to revise your review. Go ahead, Ross. I didn't mean it.
no, all you have to do is scratch the surface on this movie, and you just find nothing but John Carpenter connections.
Yeah.
Like everybody involved with the movie in some way or another was involved with John Carpenter. Nick Castle was with Carpenter from the very beginning. They were both, I think, again at USC in the film school together, and they were both in Dark Star, which is John Carpenter's first movie. He played the beach ball. Nick Castle did.
That's funny.
So he was the first of John Carpenter's unstoppable forces, I guess. But he was also a writer. You know, Nick Castle was not only a director, he wrote a lot of stuff. He co-wrote Escape from New York. He co-wrote Hook. He co-wrote The Fog with John Carpenter. He was a musician, or is a musician. They have a group called the Coupe de Villes with John Carpenter, Nick Castle, and Tommy Lee Wallace, the director of Halloween 3. So they're all good friends. Yeah, and as you said, Alex Garland, Lance Guest was in Halloween 2, and the guy who did the production design for the effects and everything, he was involved with Carpenter. He worked on some of his movies before he was involved with this. Everybody was involved with Carpenter on some level that did this movie.
It's the Carpenter connection.
The Carpenter connection. You know, Dan O'Hurley.
Yep.
O'Hurley was in Halloween 3, as we mentioned. There was somebody else.
Try saying that 3 times fast, Ross.
I know. There was somebody else who another actor that was involved with that. O'Hurley came up through the theater. He was with the Abbey Players, which was probably the foremost Irish theater, the Abbey Theater. He was also at the Gate Theater, the other big theater. And then he got into film, and we already talked about some of the things that he had done. But the fact that he did have such a great kind of Indian summer in film, films that are still fondly remembered and rewatched, with the exception of Halloween 3. It's pretty good. And yet nobody knows who he is.
Right. That is, to be fair, that is a good track record. I want to say hi to Catherine Speck. She's joining us, saying hello, Roy and Ross. I hope your summer has been a good one. Hope your summer is going well, or as well, Catherine. I was going to say it's almost over, but it is not over until September 20th, so we're still in summer. Mm-hmm. Jeff is saying, was it Castle who went out and rented the section of East St. Louis to double as Manhattan? I am not sure on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Matt said he was great in that movie, horrible film, but he was okay. Yeah.
Oh, in Halloween 3? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like Christopher Lee said, I mentioned this when I was previewing it on my Facebook page the other day. If Christopher Lee had this quote, he says, every actor has to make terrible films from time to time.
Sure.
But the trick is never to be terrible in them.
In them, right. Yeah, it's true. It's a valid point.
Yeah, so actors like Robert Preston and Dan O'Hurley know how to take a part and make an impression and do all they can to kind of elevate it. But, there's so much goodwill, it seems, that was generated by Robert Preston that the whole rest of the movie was at a higher plane. Mm-hmm. Even when they weren't in the scenes, I think that there were a lot of clever and amusing touches. The guy who played the villain, Zeur, or Norman Snow, I have no idea who Norman Snow is, has a lot of credits. He was in a lot of TV shows and that sort of thing. I just couldn't get my mind off of Will Ferrell in Zoolander. I thought if they had done it 15 years later, they could have gotten Will Ferrell to do it. Apparently they offered it to Robin Williams and he turned it down.
Turned it down. I saw that. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it would have been great, but he would have dominated the movie though. That would have been the problem. But it would have been fun to have somebody like Williams play that part.
It would have been. He's so versatile, or he was so versatile in everything that he did.
It probably would have made it too campy though. It was already campy enough the way it was. It was so Seussian. Everybody had the white hair. Like a Dr. Seuss book or something, with all the would-be Klingons on the bridge there. I like the makeup a lot, by the way. I
thought they did a nice job with it. And Robert Fletcher, I mean, there's a connection to we like to say all roads lead to Star Trek. Robert Fletcher, who was involved with Star Trek, the motion picture, he had an involvement with the costume designs.
The thing is that I thought, unlike in a lot of those movies, like even the Star Wars movies, they got a little lazy at times and just kind of did latex masks where nothing moved. And the main characters, yeah, like Chewbacca and stuff, it was expressive. But, a lot of times you got those things like those, I even forget what they call the guards, the big pig guards and Jedi and stuff where nothing moves. It's just guys in the latex costume or whatever. In this one, they actually designed the costume so that people could use their mouths and their eyes. I mean, to me, it reminded me, it was a little bit like Planet of the Apes-y. Maybe I'm elevating it too much to compare the two, because that was kind of groundbreaking and
sure. Not to take away.
It was more in that direction. Although I read also that Dan O'Herlihy had to really over emote to make any kind of impact. He claimed in the makeup he wore as Gig, and I didn't realize that because he was so
expressive.
He wound up being so expressive. So maybe I don't know if it's true what he said or if he's misremembering and exaggerating, and it was just the makeup was well calibrated. You wouldn't expect it in a movie like The Last Starfighter, where they wouldn't have had the budget, but I thought they did a great job with the makeup. So hats off to those gentlemen.
Absolutely, totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Catherine said a pro always does his best. Very true. Don did say about Will Wheaton. Yes, Will Wheaton, he actually had dialogue in this film, Don, and what had happened was unfortunately they had cut it, but you can still make him out in the film. So yes, he is a presence, also the Star Trek connection with that. And Brennan is saying the Gamorrean
guards were the pig guards. Right. I used to know that stuff.
Hi, Bill. Thanks for joining us. Don't worry about being late. We started a little late tonight as well. We started at 7:15. Nice. Good to see you out there. And thanks for joining us on YouTube as well. But yeah, and actually I'm going to throw a couple of slides up just to share, just to kind of and there
you go.
Yeah, there's Lance, and then there's also Dan, as well as Catherine Mary Stewart, and then of course whatchamacallit?
Robert Preston.
Right.
And there's Zor. I mean, look at these guys. You can't take this movie seriously. It was fun, though. I mean, you had the tentacled aliens and that sort of. You saw the assortment that the other starfighters.
Oh yeah, especially when he steps on what would have been deemed the foot of the one starfighter.
Right.
He was ready to rip him apart.
Right. You almost had a cantina kind of altercation there. Yeah. I was wondering if they're going to go so far as to chop his arm off. And then I would have said, oh, again, they're ripping off Star Wars, where Lucas was referencing Kurosawa's Yojimbo, but they didn't get to that point. But then later on in the movie, somebody did get their arm chopped off, but no dog ran off with the hand. So the ball is beautiful. Exactly. Oh, the guy who played the ambassador, by the way, in the middle there.
Oh, I'm going back. Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't place his face. He was very familiar to me, but he was in Green Acres and Petticoat Junction. He played one of the actors. He was one of the actors that played one of the characters on that show. I don't have his name handy, I don't think. Oh, Kay Cooter. K.E. Cooter, his name
K.E. Cooter, yeah, is Ambassador Enduran.
Enduran, right.
So he was. I missed that, Ross. So he was on Green Acres.
Green Acres and Petticoat Junction. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't delve into that as far.
You'll have to research it on your own.
Yeah, definitely. Catherine saying, Roy, tell us more about Lost in Space and meeting Marta Kristen. What is she up doing these days? Catherine, yeah, that was. I'll just digress just for 1 minute from the film. She was very lovely. It was great to see her. Super nice as always. I had the opportunity to meet her at Chiller about 9 years ago, and she's always so friendly. And stay tuned, because I am hoping to have her on the show maybe in the next couple months ahead. So I'll just put that out there. So it's something that we're definitely looking to do. I talked to her about it, and she was very positive about it. So once I have a date lined up for that, I will let everybody know about that. So just to throw out there. So yeah, very excited about potentially having Marta Krista on the show. Yeah. Now the mother, I didn't recognize her from other stuff. How about you, Ross?
I think I read something about what she may have been involved in, but I don't recall now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was something that you might have picked up on, but I didn't.
No, I didn't.
You
And
know,
then of course Lewis, Chris Herbert, who was playing the brother, the younger brother.
Yeah.
And at one point they were talking about a sequel. So that, I mean, really kind of, and the way this movie ended too, they left it open, kind of like an open door with that.
Yeah. And they're still talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, just within the last few years, they're saying it's going to get made. It's going to get made. And it's just like, just leave it alone. You know? don't, I mean, it's not like I embrace this movie and I love it so, but leave it alone. It's good as it is. We don't need another Last Starfighter, but that's what they try to tap into, the nostalgia, and they'll, you know, the guy who created the thing, the screenwriter, who came up with the original story, Jonathan Bethuel,
Yes.
didn't want to do another one, but I guess they must have offered him a room full of money or got him excited or something. So he sat down and he co-wrote the script with the guy who did the Star Wars movie, Rogue One.
Yes.
So the two of them sat down and hammered out a script for a sequel. But I think there's speculation that there's legal entanglements here, that nobody knows who has the rights to do the sequel because there are two movie studios involved and the screenwriter himself. I think that from what I understand, the studios have the right to remake the movie, but he has the right to the sequels or something.
Right.
So I think they're still trying to get that.
Well, this was tied up too, because this was Lorimer production, and then what happened was I think they got bought out by Warner Brothers, if I'm not mistaken.
It's one of the studios? Yeah,
I think it was Warner. But to your point, there's different rights for different actions, and that's pretty much what is holding it up. I mean, I think I would be okay with if there was a sequel. It's, for me, I don't think they need to do a remake of this movie. Personally,
you know what's going to happen though. You know, it's not going to feel like the original, because nothing will now. They'll have souped up CGI effects. They're going to bring back this Zur supposedly,
right?
But you know what they're going to do? They're going to bring back what's his face? It'll be a legacy thing. They'll bring back Lance or whatever, and he'll train somebody. Like maybe his little brother or his son or something like that. Then Lance will die horribly, and they'll be like, you know, and then they'll blow up.
You got it all figured out, Ross.
Yeah, then they'll blow up Zur, and everybody will leave the theater. Yeah,
you know, kind of like episode number 8 of the latest Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's going to be. Lance is going to show up. He's going to be 105. You know, it's going to be depressing.
Easy, Ross. He's not too much older than us.
And Robert Preston's gone. You know what I mean? It's like we don't have the There are no actors like that anymore. No,
Flash will not be there to save you.
I mean, who has that kind of presence? You know, anymore.
Flash.
Yeah, Flash.
Gotta laugh.
So just leave this stuff alone. I'm tired of the reboots and the resurrections. Come up with your own stuff.
Tell us how you really feel, Ross. That's the whole idea here. No, we did not get that to yet, Bill, but we are going to get to that. We'll definitely touch upon that. And then you also asked, how about Dick Van Dyke taking over for Robert Preston in the sequel?
Okay, I mean, if they want to do that, I'd pay to see it. Only if he gets up and dances, though.
Oh boy!
Yeah,
Brendan's saying, isn't he supposed to be the last Starfighter, though?
Yeah, exactly. Would you believe the next to last, the penultimate Starfighter?
There you go. Yeah. Catherine would come back. She just does Hallmark flicks nowadays. Yeah, she would definitely come back. I'm pretty sure she would too. Definitely.
Oh man. Well, let's hope it doesn't happen, but I don't know. If they do get Dick Van Dyke, maybe I'd go see it. Maybe they get Mel Brooks as Greg. Put him in the Schwartz makeup.
The Schwartz. Oh my goodness. Maybe, hopefully they don't do a remake of that movie.
Yeah.
May the Schwartz be with you.
The Schwartz. Yeah. I didn't like it the first time, but if Mel were to come back and play Greg, I would like it.
Oh my goodness. That's so funny. Here's some other scenes. The guy gets the girl.
There you go. Did you pick up on the Arthurian symbolism by any chance?
I did, and they even referenced that too.
I didn't know it was intentional because
yeah,
I know there was the Excalibur test, which was like hit you over the head with it,
right?
You know, that Robert Preston talks about with the video game. But there was also the fact that Zur was the son of Ambassador Endurin, and he's kind of rebelling against the father, which is the same with Modred and Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
We have no idea about his parentage, if it was like the result of some kind of, you know, forbidden incestuous union with Arthur's sister or aunt or what have you. But yeah, it turned out that the screenwriter, the guy who created it, that Bethiel had been reading Once and Future King at the time that he was doing the screenplay, and he wanted to work some of that in there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And there was also some Wizard of Oz imagery.
That I did miss.
You had the disembodied head of Zur, like the wizard's head in the one scene, and in another they had what's her name? The Catherine Mary Stewart. Maggie. Yeah, Maggie. Thank you. Mm-hmm. She had the braids and the like the Dorothy shirt going in the one scene. I thought, wait a minute, where's the Tin Man?
Kind of a nod.
But they didn't keep going with it. You know what I mean? It didn't seem to be consistent all the way through. There was just like a couple of things where, like, did they do that on purpose, or was that? But when I saw his head like that, I thought, all right, well, they did do it on purpose, but I don't know why. There was
one thing I did not pick up on, but I read about is that I guess they had a continuity error with the costuming. Did you catch that? Where he's wearing a different shirt, I believe.
Oh, no.
I totally missed that.
No, I noticed his hair, like going, you know, when he was the beta, I noticed the hair changing all the time. But
right. But that was
those scenes later.
On those scenes later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, going back, Brennan said, this is digression here, but there's been a sequel announced for Spaceballs. So
like, why bother? I mean, already at that point, you know, if you want to digress about the Mel Brooks movie, yeah, once you didn't have like Harvey Korman or Madeline Kahn or Gene Wilder or Marty Feldman. Once you don't have any of those people anymore, don't even bother. They did the follow-up series to History of the World. I think I got through one episode, maybe two, and I just said, yeah, this is not.
How
for
was
me.
that?
Not for me.
No.
I mean, yeah, it was, had some, humorous stuff in it, but it doesn't have that broad delivery anymore. You know what I mean? These people are not, they're not from the old school. They're not Henny Youngman anymore. You know what I mean? They don't have that Borscht Belt kind of, or vaudeville kind of background anymore. It's all out of TV. So
William said, I agree, Ross. It takes a cast of geniuses to make a Mel Brooks film work.
Yeah,
no, it does. And it's different filmmaking. It's a different technique. It's a different time. It's almost like, I don't know if we've really talked about this, but look at I Love Lucy. Like if let's say Lucy was alive, right? And she was vibrant in the age that she was in the 50s. That type of comedy today, I do not think would work. It's just the appreciation for it is just not there. And
the delivery wouldn't be the same. You know what I mean? They were just so sharp at what they did.
Yeah.
And even when they're corny, they're hilarious.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like I always say, there's two kinds of jokes. There's the joke that hits you off guard and startles you and makes you laugh. And then there's the joke that you see coming from 100 miles away.
But it's still funny.
But when it sticks, it lands and it sticks right where you want it to. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Maybe not everybody would agree with that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's like a Three Stooges thing or something. I don't know. Or some people think it's funny and women don't.
I know. Interesting enough, though, I really never got into the Three Stooges.
Well, Roy, you have a lot of estrogen. I always knew that about you.
The pinky for your Ross.
It's funny thing, but I didn't like them when I was a kid. But I must be stupider now because now I think they're funny.
Must be, no. I mean, I don't have anything against them. It's just I just never.
I was always a Marx Brothers guy. I was never a Three Stooges guy. But now I think they're hilarious.
So, what are you saying? You don't like the Marx Brothers anymore?
Are you kidding? I love the Marx Brothers to a point.
Yeah. There you
go. After Day at the Races, forget about it.
Yeah.
Like, do not watch The Big Store. It's terrible. It's like an Abbott and Costello movie, and not a good one. Yeah.
What are you saying? You don't like Abbott and Costello?
No, I don't. What? They did one or two routines that are funny, and they're fine, but they're not at the level of the top Marx Brothers movies.
How about the Bowery Boys?
Oh, are you kidding? If you think the Three Stooges are bad,
now you're getting nasty.
Well, I've got to give him credit though, because he made like 700 movies, and they're all exactly the same.
They get an A for effort.
Do you remember they would show them on Sunday mornings?
Sunday mornings, Channel 11. Yeah. My grandfather used to watch them all the time.
Yeah. And by extension, so did I.
Yeah. Don saying the Stooges get better the more you know that a lot about them. Love those guys.
Yeah. They're very
Marks and Skidoo, lots of laughs.
Oh my God, Skidoo. Yeah, that's not one of his best, but the Bowery
Roy, you can't compare the Marx Brothers with the Bowery. I wasn't. I was just taunting Ross to see if he liked them. I totally agree.
Yeah. The Stooges got me through a rough stretch. Yeah, Murakami Wise, they did the famous sketch with Andre Preview. But I was really bummed out one New Year's Eve, and they used to do like a Stooge-a-thon on one of the stations. I think it was TBS, where they showed all the Stooge shorts in sequence, through a certain point. I guess I don't know if they showed them all, but they started like at 3:00 in the afternoon on New Year's Eve and went through New Year's Day, and I thought, wow, this is like the most enjoyable New Year's Eve I've ever had. Watching these guys beat the hell out of each other.
Benny Hill.
Yeah, it's never a big Benny Hill guy either, but it's just me. I thought maybe because I didn't like him when I was younger, I thought maybe if I went back and watched him now, because a lot of times, I have a broader appreciation of that kind of comedy. I went back and I said, no, I'm still not a Benny Hill guy.
Some of the stuff Benny Hill did was really
it's burlesque. It's fine.
Yes.
It's just not my. It really doesn't really fly that now. It didn't fly for me back then, but I don't know.
Laurel and Hardy, yeah.
Laurel and Hardy are pretty timeless.
Yeah. That never.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that never gets old. What was it? The March of the Wooden Soldiers. Love that.
Yeah, and the short with the music box with the piano, or the classic one where they're carrying it up the steps. How many times did you see that in grade school or in Cub Scouts or whatever?
Oh yeah. Lou's saying the Stooges are on MeTV Saturdays at 6 p.m. There you go.
Oh, I own all of them. So.
Oh, do you really?
Of course I do.
I knew it.
Yeah, and the Marx Brothers too. Yeah.
It was funny. Now, here's a question for you, because we are totally digressing, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Chari was mentioning this to me. Now, tell me if you've heard this, or maybe you haven't heard this. The physical comedy that the Stooges did, was it real, or was it not? I mean, did they make contact when they were beating up?
Oh, they made contact. They had sound effects to make it worse, and they didn't actually poke each other in the eyes. They would go above, but they always missed. They were always hitting each other in the eyes, breaking ribs. And
okay, so breaking ribs. That's pretty serious. So they were.
They would fall and they'd hurt themselves, and I mean, they were physical comics.
Yeah.
But I mean, they tried to fake it, but they really slapped each other and stuff.
Gotcha.
So, But the sound effects are what makes it funny.
Well, yeah, of course.
He's so over the top. Yeah. Yeah.
Mo said it was always very carefully choreographed. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
It was very carefully choreographed, but people still got hurt. Yeah.
Larry has an actual callus from being slapped over the ears.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah. He was born in Philly, Larry.
Was he really?
Yeah. And a big mural of him at his birthplace. I think it was around 4th and South, 3rd and South Street.
Brendan saying Sam Raimi was a big Stooges fan, and they were an influence in his Evil Dead films. Well, there you go.
For Mel Gibson too.
I was just going to say, because in the Mel Gibson movies, he's usually watching them. Matt's saying my dad always subjected me to the Bowery Boys, the Three Stooges, and Benny Hill. In return, I forced them to watch Uncle Floyd. Vince was a big Uncle Floyd fan.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Matt and I saw him in Easton right before the pandemic.
Wow.
He came up to do some Italian American festival at the old Sipesville Inn. You lived right around there. Yeah, so we went up to see him right before I guess the pandemic had already broken, and it was in Wuhan. It was in the East, and probably in Europe at that point. And because Matt was supposed to go over there, and that was the whole reason he was able to go see Uncle Floyd with me, because originally he was going to be overseas, but he got walled in here with the pandemic. So Uncle Floyd was like the last thing we did before everything got shut down.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Matt saying Floyd was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, Floyd was still funny. Yeah, he's old school. He does the old shtick.
Yeah.
Maybe he should be the one making Spaceballs. Bring back Floyd Vivino.
There you go. But anyway, we digressed.
Yeah.
But getting back to the film. No, so it
was what movie are we talking about?
What movie are we talking about? Well, one of the things that was brought up before was about all roads leading to Star Trek. And yes, Meg Wiley was the keeper in Star Trek in the Cage as well as the Menagerie. And she also was grandma in this film. She did a lot of stuff. So yes. And then also, of course, Will Wheaton was also mentioned, as well as Robert Fletcher for the costuming. And then there was another actor that also was in a latter Star Trek incarnation. But so there were definitely Star Trek connections with this film. How about the director, Ross? We were talking about him a little bit before.
Yeah. We know he's Michael Myers in the first 2 Halloween movies, and later he had some cameos in the later, more recent incarnations. But he was more than that. He'd studied to be a filmmaker, and he was a friend of John Carpenter. So he was in on the ground floor with Dark Star, Carpenter's first movie. Co-wrote a lot of movies with Carpenter, and he was in his band, of course, like I said, performing with Tommy Lee Wallace, the director of Halloween 3, and he also did a few movies that we heard about. I didn't see. What was the one he did? The boy who could fly. The boy that could fly.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I never saw that, but that I remember when that was out, and it got some notice.
I actually think that was an 80s movie, wasn't it?
I think so.
I think it was around 87, 88. I think I recall seeing that film. Yes.
Yeah.
It was in that time.
Of course, he also directed Dennis the Menace, but
there you go.
And Major Payne with one of the Wayans.
Oh, okay.
But he did other stuff too. The guy had a half decent career, I think, because he was so diverse. He was a director, he was a writer, he was a performer. So, but this one definitely has a cult. Like I was saying, remember we were doing Carpenter, was it last week? We did Starman. By coincidence, we didn't do this on purpose.
No.
But the fact that so much shade got thrown on Carpenter during his career, everything had to live up to Halloween. It was like, oh, Halloween is so great. Right. The fog. Yeah, it was okay. This and that and the other. That was okay. And then we look back years later, and people are still watching these movies, and there are a good 6 or 7 Carpenter movies now that are kind of classics of various degrees. And it's just, Nick Castle is very lucky that people are still remember fondly, this movie, The Last Starfighter. Even though I never saw it and thought it was probably garbage, I enjoyed it.
Oh, I definitely enjoyed it too. And it's interesting too, because when I would think of Starman, I would always think of The Last Starfighter, even though the two are not related. But it was because of the timing of the films and just, an alien coming to the earth and I'll say befriending a human on a certain level. I mean, it's a little bit more than that for both pictures, but
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. Just want to say hi to May. May's joining us from Canada. She's working late tonight, but May, thanks for stopping by and saying hi. Hope all is good, well, and you're having a good week. Randy is saying the Last Starfighter across.
A crossover, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, yes. There you go. Yeah, maybe. Yes.
A Last Starfighter, yeah, across.
Royal all roads lead to Curb Your Enthusiasm.
The Rylands are all Larry David. Yeah, there you go. I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't encourage it.
Don't encourage.
But it's kind of funny. Yeah. Yeah, so I would definitely watch this again. If we were living in a day where they would still rerun movies like this on regular TV and it came on, I would watch it. But we don't have TV like that anymore.
No, let me ask you a question. One thing we really didn't touch upon, and was one of the selling points, or one of the things I really did want to. When you watched this film, were you feeling the vibes of like the mid 1980s? Were you feeling the vibe of far as when we were like, getting ready to graduate? I mean, this really was centered around our time frame. I mean, as far as going off to college and trying to leave his roots, it's not that he didn't like where he was, but he just felt that there was something more better that was awaiting him, and it was almost like a motivation to keep him going. So I think it really tied in with our time period.
But it's the hero's journey too. It's the Luke Skywalker thing. He can't wait to get out and see the world and see the galaxy and make his mark. Yep. But having not seen it in '84, it didn't have that. Obviously didn't have that. It was vicarious because now I'm 100 years old. But I could look back to. I could look back to it and appreciate it for what it was.
But isn't it great when you're 100 years old and then you reflect upon it and you can actually feel those feelings that you were feeling when you were like only 18, 19 years ago?
Well, he worked so hard to kind of bottle that 80s feeling into the movie. And even though it wasn't, genuinely undistilled Spielberg,
right?
There was enough of that in there, diluted, right down to the, how far into this? What time is it right now?
Right now it's 8:20.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to jump into the music yet, or if we're still.
Well, we can get there soon.
I do want to say, when we get to the music, I'll finish my point. I do want to say that Ron Cobb, the production designer for this movie, worked on a lot of Alien. And in fact, one of the ships that the assassin takes down to wipe out the Beta was a rejected ship from Alien that they used. He worked on the special edition of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He designed the inside of the mothership. He worked on Night Skies. Spielberg originally hired Ron Cobb to direct Night Skies. Or I don't know if there was a contract signed, but he said, look, you're going to direct this movie, back when it had the horror angle to it, before it became what it became, like when it became a cuddly, kind of coming of age movie. Then Spielberg said, "No, wait a minute, I'm stepping up. I'm directing this movie. Yeah, get out of here, Ron." But Ron. So I mean, this had its genuine connections to the other movies, even if it's not the other movies. It has people working on this movie that were really part of that core of films that really shaped us. I think when we were growing, the big films. Not that this didn't shape some of us, but I mean, like Star Wars and E.T. and Close Encounters and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, those were the epics.
They were what? They're like kind of the epics. Yeah, the tent poles, Superman, and that sort of thing.
Superman, sure, absolutely.
And you find out that a lot of the people involved in the makings of these movies had some connection to the other movies, so that's kind of fun. There was some discrepancy about. I thought, okay, well, maybe for once they got ahead of the curve by anticipating Back to the Future with Robert Preston's space car, because it's kind of DeLorean like.
It is absolutely.
Having seen that DeLorean, I told you when I used to walk to high school back in '84 that they had a DeLorean in the show window at a business there. It wasn't a car business. I think the guy was just so proud to have a DeLorean that he had it
Where
on
was
display.
where was that at, Ross? Where?
On 25th Street. It was on 25th Street. You know where Rudy's gas station is? Rudy's car wash. It was diagonal across the street on 25th Street.
I'm not remembering.
And it was there for a long time. I'd walk past it every day. But so and he had the doors up and everything. So I got a good long look at the DeLorean. But this very definitely had those, the gull wings or whatever they called that, the doors. And I knew that this was before Back to the Future. It was the year before Back to the Future broke, and everybody was all over the DeLorean. But the conflicting thing is, well, first of all, that Ron Cobb apparently he was on the ground floor of designing the concept art for Back to the Future then. So he kind of, did his work on Last Starfighter actually influence Back to the Future?
Right.
Because he actually did the legwork for the what they did with the DeLorean in that picture. But there's I have a little bit of a conflicting information here, because I also read that it was kind of based on the spinners that they used in Blade Runner, the cars that they used in Blade Runner.
Right.
In which case, I don't know that he had anything to do with that, or if it was the guy who built the car. I don't know if he worked from Cobb's design, or if it was I can't remember the guy who built these cars. It wasn't the guy who did the Batmobile, I don't think. Who did all the other cars.
You're thinking of George Barris, right?
Yeah, it wasn't him. Yeah, it was somebody else. He's the one that did the Catmobile, I think, in the Batman.
Oh, TV. It was Gene.
Yes.
Gene. Oh, in fact, that's the other Star Trek. Gene Whitfield. He was that. Okay. That's the other Star Trek connection, because there was for the folks out there who remember the Star Trek episode Bread and Circuses, when it's the episode with the parallel planet of Earth, and it's with the Romans.
Right.
Kirk comes across a magazine and Spock's, because of Spock showing it to him, and he sees the Jupiter 8, and it was designed by Gene Whitfield. Now there's a picture of the car I just put up. It's very DeLorean-ish in style.
Yeah. With maybe a hearse on the back or something. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it almost looks like that.
Unless that's a roll bar or something. I'm not sure what they did there. But yeah. So that was kind of fun to see that kind of anticipation. So it was right in the tradition. It didn't necessarily rip off all the other movies. It kind of anticipated at least one of them. Anyway.
But no, that's a good connection, though, in regards to that.
But as far as the music, unless you have anything else to say, I mean, you're welcome to say something after I comment on the music.
Thanks, Ross.
I'm just saying, if you want to say something now or say something after, I'm not pushing you into the music.
No. I'm just busting your chops. Actually, I wasn't fast enough. I was trying to bring something up to show you. So your timing was just about there, almost there. So anyway, let me get it to where I need to, and I've almost got it. And just to kind of show you what I was talking about.
Do you have your window open there? Are those crickets?
Those are crickets, Ross.
Is that the katydids? Or is that the crickets with everybody in the audience just like waiting for you? That's pretty good.
There we go.
Is it nice and cool?
Yeah, it is.
We had great weather today. Yeah.
But there's the Jupiter 8, and that actually that was used in Batman, and that was, I think, the Joker or the Catwoman were in that car, but they used it for photos in the Star Trek episode. And there's William Shatner with that, so publicity shot. So
that color's come back. I've seen that color on cars recently.
Have you really?
Yeah. Now you want one.
Now I want one. There we go. But anyway, going to the music with Greg Safan. Am I right?
I've never heard it said. Greg Safan. One of my great pleasures watching this movie was guessing the temp track. I don't know if you really paid attention to the music in the film, but it was so obvious that they laid down John Williams tracks through the movie, and then Greg Safan just went and did his own version, I
was thinking maybe it was like a nod.
Yeah. Well, they really did that a lot in Rogue One. I think it was Michael Giacchino that did the music for that, but they really, really got the textures of the Star Wars scores and just kind of did this amorphous John Williams homage. And here, yeah, also it was not exact. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was a ripoff, but very definitely when Alex goes to the whatever planet that's on, where they have
right
station or whatever, when he's going through and just starting to learn everything, there's this little bit of a scherzo that's playing, and it is so obviously based on the Jawa music from those scenes in Star Wars that had the same kind of mood, had the same rhythms, which in turn John Williams kind of lifted from Prokofiev. So it just kind of had that. Then when the assassins come down to take out the Beta, I don't know if you caught all the percussion and everything. It was very Sand People. That cue.
I'll be honest with you. I missed that interpretation. However, there were other points that I was reflecting upon Star Wars and hearing John Williams coming through. But I'm almost going to go back and rewatch it just so I could.
Listen for it. And a couple of times, there was one of the scenes where they were doing the Nocturnal Pursuit from Close Encounters for one of the 10 scenes on Earth, I think.
Right.
Might have been with the Beta and with Maggie when the assassin comes, I think. And what was the other thing? Oh, and they kept lifting the end of the TIE fighter attack. Now, like I said, it's not exact, but it's close enough that that was on the temp track, that they said, this is what we want you to do for this scene. This is the sound we want. But the fanfare he came up with is original. It's not John Williams. He came up with a rousing theme, and
I enjoyed the music. I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, I did too. I liked it. And like I said, it's not a ripoff. It's an homage.
Yeah.
But it's just clear what the influences were.
Mm-hmm.
Craig Safan called for a Mahler-sized orchestra, which is to say he had quadruple woodwinds. He had like a zillion, trumpets and trombones, and he had horns. And I think in the mix in the movie, it doesn't really jump out as much as you think it would. It's not like it's an overwhelming kind of big, Star Wars sound. I didn't think. I found it interesting that his mother studied at the Cleveland Conservatory, but his father owned a jewelry store.
Wow.
So, Craig himself started picking out melodies on the piano when he was like 5 or 6. So his mom got him piano lessons, but it soon became apparent he wasn't so interested in learning by rote. So she got him kind of a music teacher that would work with him and kind of teach him to improvise, and taught him jazz and that sort of thing. And so he got in through the back door. He was not like a classically trained artist necessarily.
Right.
He kind of followed his own path. So he's into all these jazz artists. He got to see a lot of them live in LA. And then he got into rock, and he started listening to the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and so forth. Then when he was reading a Leonard Bernstein book, The Joy of Music, he started reading about the Rite of Spring, and that got him very interested in hearing this piece. So he's really got off on dissecting and studying this 20th century classic by Stravinsky, and that got him interested in orchestral stuff. But still, he didn't think he wanted to be a musician. He thought he wanted to be an artist. So he went to Brandeis. Went to Brandeis and started to study art there. And
so how old was he really when he became established?
Well, this is the thing. He started writing songs at 13, so he was still very much involved with music. And when he was in school, he spent a lot of his time writing songs for musicals and played in a band and everything. So he realized he was never really going to get away from music. Right. But what happened was, his parents wanted him to be a doctor, a lawyer, wanted to be some kind of professional, and he wanted to be an artist. So he went to study art, and he thought he'd be an architect or something like that. But he wound up graduating, and he went back to LA, and he's here, like, I guess he must have been working with his dad, like trying to sell jewelry or something like that. He got a call from an old friend at Brandeis, and she said that her boyfriend has a movie that he made, and he needs a score. Do you know somebody that we can get to score the movie?
Sure.
So he wrote he said, of course, me. So he wrote the score for this movie. It turned out the director was John McTiernan,
Okay,
the
sure.
guy who
From
did,
Die Hard.
Die Hard. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Did Die Hard and Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
And he had another big movie too. What was it? Was it Predator? Predator.
Predator.
So nobody knew who he was yet either, but that got him started as a
Wow.
film composer in Hollywood. And he just kept up, and he studied before he got there. He'd studied composition with this composer Alvin Lucier, who was an avant-garde composer. He did a lot with electronics, with tape, and what he did, his most famous piece, I can't remember the exact wording. It's like, I'm alone in a room. It's a longer title than that. And what it is he reads a sentence. It's on YouTube. You can look it up. Alvin Lucier is his name. He says, okay. I'm alone in a room, blah, 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 blah. And he plays it over and over and over. But every time it repeats, he alters the sound just a little bit. And it goes on for like 45 minutes. And eventually, it doesn't sound like a human voice anymore. It starts to take on tones. And you really get a sense of not only the nature of sound, but also the acoustic of the room. So he kind of learned that from Lucier, and he carried that over into some of his film scores. He experimented with that. He wrote the original score for Wolfen, with Albert Finney and Gregory Hines. Unfortunately, it got canned then. They threw out the score, and they got James Horner to write the music. But he did apparently a kind of an experimental score for Wolfen. And he also did, what was another one of his early ones that you would recognize? Well, early, he did Corvette Summer.
Oh, sure.
And he did Roller Boogie, the movies like that, before he really started to get some of the bigger films like Wolfen. He did Remo Williams, The Adventure Continues.
Remo, yeah.
Yeah, and he did
Corvette Summer. Wasn't Mark Hamill in that?
Mark Hamill and Annie Potts, right?
Annie Potts, yeah.
Yeah. And then Stand By Me. Stand By Me.
Well, Rob Reiner, 1986.
Yeah, and for one of the tracks in that, he said he recorded a cue where it was just all done with found objects. He didn't use musical instruments. He just used whatever they had laying around and made music.
Wow.
By clanking it all together and making musical sounds with that. So he got to use some of Lucier's influence in those and got to mess around and do some innovative stuff. But he wound up working in television. He got a couple of awards for working for Cheers. He got the ASCAP Film and Television Award for 7 years in a row for doing the music for Cheers. And he got an Emmy for doing the series Life Goes On in 1989. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that show.
Yeah. So, and he's still alive. I mean, he's probably in his 70s now. I didn't really do the math, but they said that he was interested, if they do a sequel, he was interested in coming back and working on the music. So that would be one of the more compelling reasons to revive it, would be to hear the score. But
absolutely,
especially if it's retro like that, what we would perceive now as retro.
Well, I think honestly, and somebody was commenting earlier, I think Lance Guest would do this film. I'm pretty sure Catherine Mary Stewart would do this film if they did bring him back, Craig Savan or Savan. I think, that's the tone of the film, so that would be kind of cool. Yeah. Obviously, they would probably go in the direction that you were talking about, and maybe it wouldn't be as dreadful or as depressing or following the outline that they usually do for sequels, especially if it's like the next generation type of deal. Yeah. But it could have some merit. And I think they've been talking about, as you said, that they've been talking about this for a while, but I actually think I've heard them talk about this or have read that they've been approached or what have you. But the problem is more and more time goes on and everybody gets older. And then at some point it's like, if they're going to do anything, then it turns out to be like more of a remake than a continuation or a sequel, and then that's where absolutely it just kind of shifts. So
because the whole budget is going to go to Harrison Ford as Greg.
What's he commanding now? 20 million a picture?
It's gonna be like a $300 million movie, and Harrison Ford's gonna get like 2/3 of it for playing Greg.
Oh shoot. Yeah, it's probably not too far from the
Yeah.
truth as far as them getting him for the role anyway. That would be kind of cool actually if they did that. He definitely has the persona to pull it off. That's funny. But thanks for that, Ross. That was
In
pretty
the
good.
physique. What?
I said thanks for all that info. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Interesting guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, he's still with us, which is really cool.
Yeah,
He was young when he did this.
and he did what he wanted to do. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of followed his own path. It wasn't like I went to a conservatory and
Right.
you know, he just in between. I didn't even mention he was working for arranging music for record albums for Reprise Records, and you know, so he was working, you know, doing all that stuff. Even though he didn't want to be a musician the whole time he was in school and stuff, he was arranging music for other more famous people.
I was going to say, was he, if he was in New York, maybe he was working at, what was the name of that record store? Oh, God. In New York City. It's the big one. Everybody, I mean, I remember going when you go into Manhattan, you always stop. Tower Records, yeah.
Tower Records,
yeah.
Back in the day, yeah.
Yep.
There is a Tower Records now. I think in Brooklyn they opened one, but I think it's mostly a performance venue more than a and you know, I think they sell some vinyl there, but it's kind of like a hipster store now. It's not like not what it was, where anybody could go there and find something.
Sam Goody, yes, Bill William. That's absolutely.
Yeah, I used to work at Sam Goody in Philadelphia.
Did you really, Ross?
Yeah, that was my first job with records. Yeah, they had the biggest classical section in Philly at the time.
Wow.
Back in the day, yeah, before Tower opened. When Tower came, it was all, the landscape changed. But I was out of there by then anyway. Yeah.
Starlog magazine, for folks that remember Starlog, always like to give a nod to the magazine before the internet. Starlog number 80, and look what's on the cover. Oh boy. Jedi Secrets Revealed, Special Effects Part 1, but of course, sneak preview to The Last Starfighter. This is issue number 80.
Oh my goodness, and Slapstick with Jerry Lewis.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I never saw that movie. It's supposed to be pretty terrible.
No, I didn't see it either.
We should do it.
Is that going to be the Christmas movie, Ross?
Sure. It's based on the Vonnegut book. I've never seen it, though.
Billy D. Williams fought the Empire. I want to be part of history. Well, there you go. He achieved that for sure.
By outliving everybody else.
Leonard Nimoy returns as director of Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, because that celebrated its 40th anniversary this June 1st this year.
Yeah, we talked about it. We did a lot of 80s movies this summer.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, for
especially
the amount of time,
which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But speaking of movies, this other portion of the show, which we like to give a tribute to Walter Cronkite. That's the way it was. The release date of this film was July 18th of 1984. The top movies back then were number one in July of 84, Ghostbusters, released June 8th of that same year. Number two was Gremlins, also released June 8th. The Karate Kid, remember that, June 22nd. Of course, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, released May 23rd. And then, remember Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks?
Yeah. Well, here's the Ross Amico pop quiz. Or I don't even know if it's a pop quiz, but here's the challenge for this week. Out of the 5 movies, which one do you think I didn't see?
Bachelor Party. Or actually, no, I'm probably wrong. I am wrong with that. I'm going to say The Karate Kid.
Karate Kid is correct. That's the only one of those movies I still have not seen.
Yeah, I thought about that. I answered quickly, and I thought, I got to refrain.
Yeah, I saw. Of course, I saw Bachelor Party in the theater. Why wouldn't I?
I mean, that was. I know. That's why I was like, wait a minute. What am I saying?
I probably would have seen Karate Kid too. I just never got around to it.
You know what's interesting? I did not see the first one in the movie theater. I remember seeing the second one though.
Yeah,
we had gone to see the Karate. I actually remember that night going to see Karate Kid 2. Also, it was a summer night.
It is kind of unconscionable, though, that I still have not seen it 40 years later. You know, you would think for such a pop cultural Dynamo.
Let me tell you something too. They have done a great job with the show that's on
the Cobra Kai or whatever it is.
Yeah, Cobra Kai. It's excellent.
I haven't seen it. Apparently, he hasn't aged though. He basically looks the same as he always has.
He does. They both do, actually. Randy Lee saying, "We're here." Tom Hanks, I think, Bachelor Party, and
the same here. Tom Hanks for me is just kind of frozen in the era of Big and before. All those goofy movies he made, Splash and Bachelor Party and
what is it? Daryl Hannah, right?
Daryl Hannah, right?
Yeah. So good times with all
good
that.
Times.
That's a TV series from 1974, but we're not talking about that.
Right? We all remember that. Yeah.
Esther Roll, John Amos,
Jimmy
Walker,
Dynamite.
Yeah. He was only, I think they were only like maybe 10 years in age difference. They made John Amos to be a lot older than he actually was.
Yeah, I mean he's still around. I thought he died years ago, but he's still around.
Yeah. What did Brennan say? Yep. 20. Yeah. Anyway, any last minute comments or things you'd like to say about the movie, please post them. And in the meantime, we're just going to go to the shout out portion of the show real quickly, and then we'll come back just to wrap things up. But with that, Sci-Fi Distilled with Mike and Mary Beth, they will be back on Wednesday, and they are doing the 2004 film Alien vs. Predator.
How can that movie be 20 years old?
Isn't that crazy?
How can that be?
I know. It's insane. 20 years. I think I don't know if I saw Jason. What was it? Jason versus
Freddy.
Yeah. Is that what it was? Yeah, it was that. And then they did Alien versus Predator. I think I saw Alien versus Predator with Vince. But to your point, Ross, I can't believe this movie's 20 years old.
Yeah. I haven't seen either one of them, but I remember the trailer for it, and it didn't seem 20 years ago.
Yeah, Brennan, awful movie, lots of laughs. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Well, we thrive on awful movies. So.
Well, speaking of talking about that, I mean, in regards to Alien, they have like another, what is it? Alien Romulus is out now.
Yeah.
You hear about that?
Yeah, I'm over it. I'm not going to go see it. It seems to have gotten like half decent reviews, but now we're in just rehash phase. There's no point. And I don't care. I'm not going to go see it.
Yeah,
I'm done.
You're done with them, but stay tuned too, because with Mary Beth and Mike, we're going to be doing in October. We always do our annual crossover Halloween show with our friends at Sci-Fi Distilled. So we will be announcing that sometime in the next. Well, it'll be about at least a month and a half, but. Halloween is not that far away. I mean, considering this is the 30th of August. So 2 months away, 8 weeks, it'll be Halloween, folks.
Yeah, 2 months is a blink. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll go like that.
Yeah.
Want to talk about Dracula. So again, friend Bill Scorado from Country Gate Theater. Now Gina's directing this play. 18 years ago, I was in Country Gate's presentation of Dracula, and I cannot believe it has been 18 years. That in itself like freaks me out that so much time has gone by. It's crazy.
It's like Roy versus Predator. I can't believe it's been 20 years since you fought Predator.
This was such a fun show to do. But anyway, they're doing it again. It's 18 years later, and the dates for the show are Saturday, October 26th and 27th. It's Saturday and Sunday, and then it's also going to be Saturday and Sunday, which is going to be November 2nd and November 3rd. For information, just go to the website. You can go to www.countrygate.org, and then also Bill has a website as well, which is www.billscorado.com. So definitely check it out, especially if you're in the New Jersey area and Harmony, Belvedere area. So it'll definitely be cool to see. In fact, they just did the auditions Wednesday night too. I would have loved to have gone out for that, but not happening. And again, there's just the theater as well. Want to give a shout out to Captain Phil, Captain Phil's Planet. Captain Phil is on WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. And the captain's schedule is now. He's on from 9 to 11:30 p.m. on Fridays. So definitely check the captain out. He'll be on shortly. And Space 1999 convention is coming up, folks. London 1999, a 50th anniversary celebration. So definitely go to the website. The website address is www.space199950years.com. Warren has got a really long list of celebrities that are going to be there. I think right now there is somewhere between 21 and 23 that are confirmed. It's somewhere in that amount. So it's going to be a pretty awesome convention. So definitely check it out. I'm actually looking forward to being at this event. It's going to be pretty cool. Also, I don't have a slide for it, but there is going to be a Space 1999 convention in Italy. And that is going to be next weekend. That is also going to be pretty awesome as well. It's going to be on a smaller scale, but it is pretty amazing. And Nick Tate will be there along with a few other guests. I've talked about it on other shows. So in fact, I had Silvana on, and we were talking about it. So definitely check that out as well. So a lot of cool stuff, especially with Space 1999 with the 50th anniversary. And speaking of which, tomorrow, if at 12 noon Eastern Daylight Time, if you go to the Facebook page of the London 1999 convention, Prentice Hancock will be a special guest, and he's going to be on to talk about some stuff, and it's pre-con discussion. Again, that will be at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That will be tomorrow. And of course, he was controller Paul Morrow. So Prentice will be on. So definitely check that out. That will be tomorrow, August 31st, 2024, 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Again, just go to the convention page on Facebook. And talking about events coming up in regards to the Star Trek Original Series set tour, William Shatner is coming back, and he will be there November 15th, 16th, and 17th. For information, go to www.startrektour.com. William Shatner was there in July. He's back. If you have not been to the original series sets in Ticonderoga, you have to check them out. And it is like, for him, William Shatner coming home. And for anybody who has not been there, Ross, you've been there. Everything about that place is just amazing, what James has done, James Cawley. And looking forward to being there at that event to volunteer and to help again. And it was just a wonderful experience being up there. It always is wonderful. And that's coming up in November. Also, the Eagle Obsession documentary is continuing in production. And as updates come along, we'll let you know about it. But for the website address, you can go to it is www.eagledocumentary.com. My friend Jeffrey Morris is directing this, and it has been a project that has been started last year, and the anticipated release is going to be for next year in 2025. So stay tuned in regards to updates in regards to that. And also nod to Studio One Thrift with Martha. As you know, Studio One Thrift has a physical location, so you can also order online for Studio One Thrift by going to www.studioonethrift.com, and you can get information, updates on the clothing that's offered, and also styling tips as well. So definitely check it out. Be sure to register when you do. Also, a shout out to Ryan, my son, and his webpage is run by Ryan. Empower Your Run. Ryan has different tier levels for this, so definitely check it out. Also, do a subscription. It's free to subscribe on there. And then also, if you want to take it to the next level, again, there's different tiers. You can check it out. His website is www.runbyryan.com. And Ross, if you can let everybody know what you got going on.
All right. Well, these are my 3 recorded shows on KWAX. Picture Perfect, the movie music show, is on right now. It's just about over, in fact. Sweetness and Light is my light music show. That's on tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Eastern. And The Lost Chord is on tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern. And that is the unusual and neglected classical repertoire. So we know about movie music. We know about the light music. The light music is all Labor Day oriented. The movie music was also all Labor Day oriented, but it'll be stuff for your, all about labor and and that sort of stuff. The Lost Chord tomorrow night, though, it's American composers kind of suck the last of the marrow out of their summer, and they hit the road for Labor Day. It's called The Last Roads of Summer. And what they do is they write about different experiences traveling across country on the Lost Chord. So those are the times of the shows. I'll write more about Sweetness and Light and the Lost Chord tomorrow morning on my Facebook page. They stream from from KWAX, the radio station of the University of Oregon. So those are all East Coast times that are posted. And my Facebook page is Classic Ross Amico. Thanks, Roy.
Yeah, thanks, Ross.
You didn't think I'd be able to get through that, did you?
And you did it well. You probably think I was going to get through mine.
I'm getting tired.
Yeah, it's all good. And for episode 240, folks, stay tuned. More than likely, we'll not be doing a show next weekend just because of everything that's coming up with the convention event and going to be doing traveling. So just going to be preparing. I'm hoping to do some broadcasts when I am in the UK. So I will definitely post some information. And stay tuned in regards to that. So we will keep everybody abreast of what's going on. And again, as I've said on the previous few shows, there's definitely a lot of cool stuff that's planned for the, especially when we get back and the months ahead. So very much looking forward to everything that's coming up. And it's going to be a fun time. So with everything, so very excited about that. And last comments that are coming through. May said the fun part of Romulus is spotting the Easter eggs from earlier films. I've been hearing a lot about that as well too. And
fan service.
Yep. Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
Randy's saying, I can't believe the show is over 4 years old. Yeah.
I know. It's almost as old as Alien versus Predator. We're a fifth of the way there, Roy.
We are, Ross. We are. Yeah. But anyway, with that said, very much enjoyed this movie. It was great to reflect upon it. Great to talk the nostalgia with Ross as always. It's just, it's always fun. Yeah. Ross versus Roy.
Ross. There was one thing I don't think we mentioned about Robert Preston, and it was the fact that he made this movie 2 years after he was nominated for Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for Victor Victoria, the Blake Edwards film. So it's kind of unusual that somebody goes from such a high-profile film to making this. It seems like such a roll of the dice or whatever to step in. But
you know what, though? That says a lot about him, though, as an artist, too. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's not, this was not, I don't know. I think it's almost like, and it's unfortunate, too. I think we see this with a lot of performers, and I don't want to name anybody specifically, but it's almost like they will not, they may do a film that's very successful, and then they get the prestige and everything. And it's almost like that they won't do anything else below the standards of those type of films. And I'm not minimizing the standards of this film, but it's almost like it has to be like a certain caliber, and it has to have a very expensive budget, and it has to be like a blockbuster, or else they won't touch it. And I think that the fact that they're just, they're doing it, and I'm not saying to do something trashy, but what I'm saying is that they'll take some chances, they'll do different material, and it's for the art. You know what I mean? In regards to that. So I think that says a lot about him. Brennan just commented, to add to what you just said, Ross, Halle Berry played Catwoman after her Oscar nomination.
Yeah. But it's a different era, and I wonder who knew him. Somebody must have known him, or he must have liked the script. I know they wrote the script with him in mind, because it's very much like the Harold Hill character in Music Man. They kind of like fast talking, flim flamming kind of, flim flam artist. So but I think it was more unusual then. What happens in those situations, you get people like Ray Milland or Jose Ferrer or something like that. That were Academy Award winners and big names once upon a time. And then decades pass and they'll do anything. Sure. You know what I mean? But in his case, he just came right off the Oscar nomination.
Right. So it had just happened.
But it's kind of ahead of its time, because now it seems everybody, trips over themselves to do these kinds of fantasies. If not a Marvel movie, then Kate Blanchett's in one now. I don't know what it's called, but it's one of these band of mercenary things, but very heavily science fantasy, comic booky, and you wouldn't expect Kate Blanchett, who's won how many Oscars now, 2 or 3 at this point, to be
But
doing one of
he's
those
doing
films.
that because it's something that's, I'll say
Right.
that it's kind of hot right now to do that.
Yeah.
So it's an attention getter. I don't want to say it's a sure thing, but it's more than likely it's going to work out. But how sad is that though, that you could be, and again, you're Hollywood, it's almost like a salesperson. You're as good as your last sale, right?
Right.
And it's just that once time goes by, you could have been like, a starlet, or you could have been, like, somebody that was, a star, major person in Hollywood. And then, 20 years goes by and it's a different crowd, and it's just not, you're not revered as you once were. And it's painful. It's very painful. And it can be very scary. I mean, that's why you really have to have a thick skin when you're doing this kind of stuff.
Right. And be able to reinvent yourself. It's not everybody has that second chance or can keep the ball rolling. But, now I think it's very fashionable that it doesn't matter if you win an Oscar or not. You'll be in popular stuff because you want to be. I mean, now it's so. Yeah, I mean, look at Joker with Phoenix, Joaquin Phoenix. You know what I mean? It's so intertwined now.
And here's another example too. Back in the day, a lot. Well, this is probably more like I think this happened more in the 60s, maybe the 70s. Actors that started out in television, when they made the transition to film, they pretty much stayed with film. And it was almost like if you went back to television, it was almost like taking a step back. You know what I mean? But now it's not like that. I mean, you have actors or actresses that are high caliber that have done major motion pictures, and for them to do television appearance, it's more common now than it was, 30, 40 years ago. It's just the changing of the times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, we could go on we could digress about this for another half hour.
We really could.
But we won't.
But
I'm sure
anyway,
everybody has something to do. Yeah.
That's Ross's way of saying that he wants to go. as our numbers are in the 12,000s, and Ross is pushing off the fans to say, "Oh, hold on for the next showing."
Always leave them wanting more, Roy.
Oh yeah, there you go. Speaking of sales, Ross. Speaking of sales. Anyway, folks,
I learned that from Robert Preston.
There you go. And then Brendan is saying digress, lots of Thank you, folks. As always, we appreciate you being out there. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to us not only on Facebook, and also on YouTube. Please do that. There's no charges associated with that. Please follow and like. It is much appreciated. Definitely want to expand upon the show and take it to the next level. So it's all very much appreciated. Tell your friends, and especially if you're enjoying the show. And if you're not, don't tell them. With that said, live long and prosper. Have a great night, and we'll see you soon.
Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day. Yes, happy Labor Day weekend. Enjoy the extended holiday if you can.
Good night.